Fossil evidence makes one thing clear. Our ancestors were not always the hunters. Sometimes they were the food. So how did an entire group of humans close its eyes every night without disappearing before morning? The honest answer is that they did not have one perfect defense. They survived by building several imperfect defenses around the most dangerous hours of the day, and the first defense may have been height. Long before humans slept beside fires on open ground, our more distant primate ancestors probably slept in trees. Living great apes still build sleeping platforms or nests, often above the ground. A tree could place a sleeper beyond the reach of some predators and make it harder for a large animal to approach unnoticed. But trees created problems too. A large body could fall, branches could break. And as our ancestors spent more of their lives walking, traveling, and carrying food across the ground, climbing into a safe tree every evening may have become increasingly difficult. At some point, members of the human lineage began sleeping more regularly on the ground. But this created a terrifying new problem. Now there was nothing between the sleeper and the predator, except fire. Fire transformed the night. It created light where predators expected darkness. It produced smoke, heat, unfamiliar sounds, and a visible center around which people could gather. A predator approaching a camp no longer saw several isolated animals. It saw a bright, noisy group carrying burning wood, stones, and sharp tools. But fire was not a magical wall. A weak fire could fade. Rain could extinguish it. And evidence that some early humans used fire does not mean every group could create and control it whenever needed. So fire helped. But the real defense was probably sitting around it. Other humans. Imagine a small prehistoric camp at night. A child falls asleep early. Several adults remain awake, repairing tools, feeding the fire, or talking quietly. Later they lie down. But an older person wakes to move closer to the warmth. A baby cries. Someone hears movement in the grass. Another person rises before sunrise. Nobody was necessarily assigned to stand guard. Yet the camp was almost never completely unconscious. Researchers discovered something similar while studying 33 Hadza hunter-gatherers in Tanzania. Over 20 days, there were only about 18 minutes during which every person being monitored was asleep at the same time. For more than 99% of the observed nighttime periods, at least one person was awake or moving. There was no military watch schedule. People naturally slept differently. Some stayed awake later, others woke earlier. Older and younger people had different sleeping patterns. Brief awakenings overlapped across the group. This does not prove that every prehistoric camp behaved exactly the same way, but it reveals how a mixed group can accidentally create a living alarm system. The person awake beside the fire did not need to defeat a lion alone. They only needed to hear it first. A shout could wake the entire camp. Several humans standing together with fire, stones, spears, and noise were far more dangerous than one sleeping body. Where they slept also mattered. Early humans would not have needed scientific knowledge to recognize a dangerous place. Animal tracks, bones, droppings, smells, and sounds could reveal whether predators regularly used an area. Open ground offered visibility but little shelter, while dense vegetation could hide an approaching animal. Caves offered protection from wind and rain, but caves could also be occupied by hyenas, bears, leopards, or other animals. A cave was not automatically a bedroom. Sometimes, it was already someone else's den. Early humans also began deliberately preparing the places where they rested. At Border Cave in southern Africa, archaeologists found evidence that people were arranging layers of grass over ash at least 200,000 years ago. These grass layers created more comfortable areas for sleeping and working. The ash may also have helped discourage crawling insects. Sleep sites were not always random patches of ground. People prepared and maintained them. But we should not make prehistoric life safer than it really was. People were attacked. Children disappeared. Predators entered camps. Fires failed. A person separated from the group could be killed quickly. Evolution did not need to make sleeping completely safe. It only needed to make it safe enough for more people to survive than were lost. And that may be the deeper answer. Early humans did not conquer the night with one invention. They reduced the danger piece by piece. Trees provided height. Fire provided light. Tools provided resistance. Carefully selected locations provided warning. And the group provided something no solitary human could create. Many different ears. Waking at many different times. So perhaps the reason our ancestors survived the darkness was not that they learned how to sleep without danger. It was that they learned how to sleep together. Because when one human closed their eyes, another was usually opening theirs.